time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Date today is the 12th of December of February, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Nichol, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Identified a new behavioral pattern of myself last night. I don't really know if that's what we'd call it, but there's nothing that I like to do on this show more than identifying behavioral patterns or in everyday life. That's just kind of what I do. It's what I really like to do. Mainly because it's about myself. And at the end of the day, I have the most skin in the game for myself. You know what I learned about myself last night? Why I love the Super Bowl so much. I thought it was just football. I thought I just loved football. Which is true, which I do. And we're going to talk about football. But the part of it that I identify, I was like, I think this is what it is. It is really hard to capture the idea of monoculture in 2024, not in the agricultural sense. In the television broadcast sense, right? This moment where you can sit down and watch something happening in real time and know that this is what everybody's watching. We're all experiencing the same thing right now, live in real time. That doesn't exist anymore. I think that has a lot to do with like streaming culture, with binge culture. You'll have an entire season of a show released in a single day, and it's just kind of like, hey, watch it at your own pace. Maybe they'll release, one half of a season all on the same day. People like HBO, they still do a good job of doing these weekly releases. When Succession was on, when White Lotus is on, when Game of Thrones was on, even when House of the Dragon is on. Like, they still stick to this week-by-week formula, so that way people can still flock at this same moment to all start watching something at the same time. And this is a very long-winded way of me getting to this point of I love the Super Bowl because I love knowing that every single household in America is watching this game right now. Everybody might not be watching it, but it's going to be on in every single household. It just is, right? I'm running some really quick errands, 30, 45 minutes before the game. Every single house that I pass by, every apartment that I pass by, every condo that I pass by, somebody's got the game on inside, right? I'm being nosy. I'm looking through blinds and shit. Well, that makes it look like I'm crawling through houses and jumping fences and being like, oh, you guys got the Super Bowl on? Like checking what everybody's vibes are. And if it wasn't that, it was literally people getting out of their cars and walking into somebody else's apartment with like a bunch of beer or just like a bunch of chips, a nice dip, like something where it's very clear they're going to a Super Bowl party. And I just love this cultural spectacle that the Super Bowl is. That is really at its core, I think, what I love the most about it is I know that everybody is experiencing the same thing at the same time. At the halftime show, I know that 5 million extra people just turned the game on, and then the second that final note plays, those 5 million people turn it off, and it does not matter to them. But for those 18 minutes that Usher is on, we're all experiencing the same thing. And I love that feeling. So let's talk about this Super Bowl a little bit. I think the easiest way to do this would be to go down the list of bets that I made. Not real bets. Don't worry if you're one of those people who hates gambling. We did not do actual bets. On Friday's episode, we did some like Motown Noah Coping Hour Super Bowl 58 prop bets. And I want to go over how we did with you guys. And then through doing this, we'll be able to talk about the things that I actually cared about in this game. So coin toss, nailed that. Kansas City, nice. Number of planes in the flyover, over-under was set at 5.5. The over cashed. The over hit on this one, it was 6. So we were looking good early. Firework color used to end the national anthem, it was red. National anthem was good. The over also hit on that, 90.5 seconds. I timed it. I was losing my mind. Awesome national anthem. How about Post Malone? Right? Shout out to Post Malone for, was it America the Beautiful that he did? Impressed. Wow. Times the word legacy is mentioned pre-kickoff. Over-under was at 2.5. Under cashed on this one. There was only one. Romo and Nantz, how did they do in this game? Pretty good. Otherwise, a very safe broadcast, I thought. I didn't think there was anything. I think Tony was kind of in his shell a little bit. I would have loved for him to kind of come out a little bit. I'm really racking my brain. Did we get I don't know, Jim. Like, did we really get one of those? I don't really think we did. Maybe I was kind of half paying attention. I don't know. I was pretty drunk. But we'll get to that one in just a second. Otherwise, here's my Nantz and Romo take of the game. first of all, Nantz should do every Super Bowl. If I had to go as radical as I could on a take here, I would say I think Jim Nantz is just the voice of the Super Bowl. And I think there were a lot of moments, especially early on, you can just feel it in that booth. You can feel the tension. This literally is their Super Bowl, right? Is getting to call a game like this. So you're a little bit empathetic towards that. What I wish I could get Jim Nantz in a skiff on, right? A room where there are no cameras, no microphones. He can be totally candid with me. Whatever you say does not leave this room, but you do have to be honest with me. I would ask him, how mad are you that Tony fucked up your call? Go back and watch that final play. The Chiefs, I thought it was an illegal screen at first. I swear to God, I thought they ran a pick. But Mahomes dishes it to Mecole Hardman, and it's like, wow, the game is over. Oh, my God. And there's this moment where Jim Nantz, like, clearly recognizes the stakes and sort of what just happened. The Chiefs just won another Super Bowl. And Tony Romo starts breaking into it. Almost felt like he was just following the mechanics of how this goes. So the Chiefs score, this stadium erupts. Jim Nantz kind of does his little call, and then Romo just breaks into what just happened and the action that they just ran and how the Chiefs got that play and how Mahomes was able to get the ball to that spot. And it kind of felt like Nantz stopped talking at a very specific moment to let the moment breathe because he heard the eruption. But again, Romo was just kind of going mechanically with what he was supposed to. And I could be reading too much into this, but again, this is just what I pay attention to on a lot of these broadcasts. So I would love to get Nantz's very, very genuine and candid thoughts on that one, because I'm pretty sure that he is pissed about it. Number of commercials that make you go, oh, that was cute. Over-under was 3.5. We smashed the under on this one. There wasn't, under. There was one. Dude, there was one, and, excuse me, there was literally one. I involuntarily went, aw, that was cute. Like, literally verbatim. My girlfriend gasped and, like, stared at me, and it didn't register. I was like, what the fuck? Why are you looking at me like that? I realized what I said. The commercial was something, I wrote it down so I didn't forget, but I remember I don't need to look at it. I don't remember who the product was for. I didn't write that down. But it was like 70% of girls quit sports before they turn 14. They were like, we need to keep these women encouraged, and we need to keep them in these extracurricular activities. I just thought it was a really sweet commercial. We had called out that they were going to be going for some more feel-good commercials this year. They didn't want to do anything too risky. I don't know what that he gets us bullshit was. Oh, my God, hands down the worst commercial of the Super Bowl. But when we talk about the Super Bowl being monoculture, the commercials come with it. And you can say what you want about how they were this year. I would argue, honestly, they were probably better this year than they have been in previous years. To me, they just felt very engaging, and they felt very, like, they did feel very clear that they were Super Bowl commercials this year. And I would argue that in previous years, that's kind of what there's a sort of a departure that's been happening with that, where they just kind of feel like normal commercials, and then sometimes they also continue to play them after the Super Bowl, and I'm like, that's not the point. Temu getting off, like, Temu, I learned actually is how you're supposed to say it, but I'm still just going to say Temu. Straight up like 4 or 5 fucking commercials. What? Huh? Temu dropping like a cool $30 million on advertising this Super Bowl season? The hell's going on with that? That he gets us commercial was insane. Like, clinically, and we'll get to it later. We'll talk about it later, because we kind of predicted that it might happen, because they really, really let it shine last year. We only got one this year. Stars of the Game feature. Is it going to be shown in the first half or the second half? We got that one wrong. They waited until the second half to show the stars of the game. That kind of bothered me. Especially, but even, I guess, hey, the real star was Taylor, and they kept showing her or whatever. But it bothered me, because I'm like, if this is a spectacle. Like, this is a global spectacle right now in Las Vegas, okay? Leonardo DiCaprio is literally at this game, and you haven't shown him on TV. What the fuck? What the fuck? And then when they finally did do it, I don't even remember who they showed. They showed, like, Beyonce and Jay-Z with, like, Jack Dorsey. The fuck? Jack Dorsey didn't even get a thing on the Chiron, by the way. He was just in the fucking frame. I'm like, Jack Dorsey, like, literally the guy who invented Twitter. Well, didn't he sneaky do... I don't even want to get, I don't remember, I don't care. Jack Dorsey was there, that was cool. And then they showed like 2 other people. I was like, okay, cool. Boring, boo. Number of outfit changes by Usher during the halftime show. Over-under was 3.5. We said under. And that hit. That hit. So here's my take on the Usher halftime show. Whoa. That was awesome. That ruled. Like, I don't even get up for Usher. Like, Usher is very much my time. Usher's, like, rise and his, like, cultural significance is very much my time. I've just never cared. I've just never been an Usher guy. So the whole, I'm like, oh, wow, he's doing the Super Bowl. Oh, my God. Can't wait to hear, yeah. But I was also the one who was like, he's not going to bring out Lil Jon, so who cares? Well, then Usher started doing yeah, and he brought out Lil Jon. It was awesome. Alicia Keys comes out wearing like a cape. I don't know what we would call that. She shimmies it off. Looked great. Sounded great, except that first note. She comes out flat as hell on that first one. Whoops. Whoops-a-daisies. He really wanted to blow the roof off that place, man. Off that place. I swear to God, it should have been Bieber. He should have brought out Bieber. Do baby. Do baby. Do baby. I was rooting for Bieber. Also, at that point, I was drunk. So I was like, Bieber. Bieber. It didn't work. Team losing at halftime wins the game. Yesterday, by the way, we haven't even fucking talked about anything that happened in the actual game yet. Yeah, that did happen. Chiefs were losing at halftime, and it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird just to talk about actual football. It was weird because, dog, it's literally the second half, and the Chiefs are driving. I'm looking at my girlfriend. They're down 10. I'm like, it's literally happening. We're watching it happen in real time. The Chiefs are they're going to do this. I was like, I hate to sound corny, but being down 10 in the Super Bowl, this is literally Patrick Mahomes' music. Like, this is the moment that he's built for. If I'm a Niners fan, this is my worst case scenario, is being up by 10 against Patrick Mahomes. Because when it's the wild card round and they're playing like the Dolphins, and if they go down in that game, you know, you're kind of like, whoa, Kansas City on the ropes. Like, I don't know. And then you're like, man, even if they win this game, like, they have to get through like Buffalo, and then they have to get through Baltimore. And like, it's so easy to count them out when you really got to start looking ahead. And then you realize it's the fucking Super Bowl. It's one more game. It's literally, this is it. This is it. Patrick Mahomes is not going to lose this game. He doesn't lose this game. That's probably the only criticism the real criticism of Tony Romo on the night. 2 different people within 30 seconds sent me a text being like, Romo sucks. Okay, why does Tony Romo suck? He just won't stop talking, and every time he does talk, he's about Patrick Mahomes. Well, he's a color commentator, so he's supposed to be talking, and also Patrick Mahomes is playing in this game. Also, Patrick Mahomes is like one of the greatest quarterbacks who has been alive ever, who has ever graced a football field, to have ever had a pulse. It's Patrick Mahomes. Especially at this point, what the hell are we talking about? Folks, you know how much I love dynasties. You do. I very unapologetically love these. Hey, talk about the Super Bowl as a cultural spectacle. I'd say the same team. I'm sorry. I'd say the same thing about a team who wins 3 championships in 5 seasons. Cultural spectacle. No? I love that Patriots fans are already trying to reduce it, and they're like, I saw this tweet. It was like, not a real dynasty. You're telling me that their dynasty involves beating Jimmy G, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy? Like, boo. Like, all right. Okay. So they should have lost those games instead? So instead, Patrick Mahomes should have lost those Super Bowls. Oh, and then their point was that the only one that he's lost was to Brady and the Bucs. A 46-year-old Tom Brady, by the way. Yeah, all right. Valid. Travis Kelce touchdown Taylor Swift dance. Did not happen. We did not cash that one. He didn't even score. Big second half from him. And I'm just going to say it because we're all thinking it. Travis Kelce's legacy was saved in this game by them winning. We're not even talking about him pushing Andy Reid anymore. And maybe we will. I mean, I'm recording this at 8:40 in the morning on Monday morning following the Super Bowl. So the early morning shows, like, hey, what are they saying? I don't even know what the flavor of the week is going to be. I don't know what people are going to be talking about. But I'm telling you right now, as soon as the Chiefs won that game, people stopped talking about it in real time. So I'd be surprised if it comes back. Because it's the same action. He does one action, but the narrative is completely different. It's night and day if they win or lose that game. So In the first quarter, Travis Kelce gets frustrated and he like surprises Andy Reid and he shoves him a little bit. He roughs him up a little bit. It's not a great look. We can be honest. It wasn't a great look. No, he wasn't trying to fucking hurt Andy Reid. He wasn't trying to kill Andy Reid. But he did bump into him. Andy Reid's an old guy. It's like fucking relax. It just, the optics were not good at all, right? It wasn't a very great thing to have happen on camera in the fucking Super Bowl. But the Chiefs go on to win that game, and what is the narrative going to be? This is what it fucking takes to win. It's this level of intensity. It's this level of dedication. That bullshit, right? If they lose that game, it's like he's a frustrated, like, crybaby throwing a tantrum on the sideline, not getting his way. Oh, I don't get to be it on the fucking play, and so now I'm going to go beat up my coach. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just because the way that people are going to talk about it is completely different. Now that they won the game, built different. Travis Kelce built different, which is true, by the way, but it would have been true even if he didn't do that. And they didn't win the game. They didn't lose the game. Like, that still would have been true. So that sucked. Color of, I didn't even do this one. I'll go with this one. Color of Gatorade dumped on the winning coach. We said orange for Kansas City. And we said purple for San Francisco. Just missed that one. It was purple for the Chiefs. A ceasefire call to action will play during the game. It was just a yes or no. We said no. Call to action calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East. We said no, they would not play it. We were right. They didn't. We wrote no, but in our heads we were like, but they are going to do that. What was interesting is that we instead got the inverse of that. And they were like, we did get a Stop Jewish Hate commercial, which I thought was fair, which I thought was valid. We got to chill with the blue square bullshit. Here's the thing. Two things can be true. I can be on board with not wanting Jewish people to die, also not wanting Palestinians to die. But this square social media bullshit, you got to be fucking for real. You got to figure something else out, because this is like, I can stand with the cause while also thinking that the way that we're doing this is ridiculous and bullshit. When all you're asking people to do is to just like post a square, it like perpetuates this culture of performative politics and like performative activism where people will do something just because they feel like it's what they're supposed to do and they'll feel like it's the right thing to do. And you're going to say, well, that's not an inherently bad thing. It's not an inherently bad thing, but it was when people were trying to do it for Black Lives Matter. Remember that? People were like, post a black square, and then it actually ended up fucking up the hashtag. And it ended up fucking up people being able to access certain links and certain resources that they actually needed because their feeds were just clogged with a bunch of fucking idiots from like the suburbs posting black squares. And again, you're going to argue, well, it's not that big of a deal because a bunch of people are posting it, which means a bunch of people are going to try. But it did end up being a big deal because it blocked people from being able to, I don't really remember, it was 4 years ago. I honestly don't remember the nuances of it. So don't love the blue square, but I like what it represents. So how's that? Number of beers I drank. The over-under was 4.5. What do you guys think? I'm going to be honest, guys. The over hit before halftime. All day I was walking around, and we like went to the grocery store, and I was like, I'm going to break the record today. I'm going for the record. It's a Super Bowl. I'm going for the record. She's like, no, you're not. I was like, you don't think I'm going over? She's like, you might, but I don't know. She's like, I know how you are during these, like, because when it's the Oscars, it's the Super Bowl, it's the whatever, like the whole day I am just glowing. Like it's just a different version of me, right? And she knows how I am on those days. So she was like, yeah, you're going to fucking crush this. Dude, so I had 2 pregame beers that didn't count. I was counting beers the entire time. I felt like such a loser. I was like, that's 1. Like, oh my God, cringe, gross. Just drink them and shut up. I had 2 pregame, but those don't count towards the total. Before halftime, I was already cracking open number 5. But I only ended with 6. I ended on 6. I could have easily gotten to 10. But I ended on 6 because I was like, you have a show to do tomorrow. You usually don't drink this many. Like, you need to relax. You've had a lot of sodium today. I was just hammering olives. Way too much sodium yesterday. But luckily, I took a bunch of, like, potions and, like, mercury and shit before I went to bed. So I feel good this morning. That was a Super Bowl, man. To be honest, that was basically it. That was basically the Super Bowl last night. I'm ecstatic because I got exactly what I wanted. The Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl. And this isn't an anti-49ers thing, by the way. It's really not. I'm not saying this as like a bitter Lions fan who's like, oh yeah, fuck you, San Francisco. Like, you guys deserve to lose. No, like, I wanted them to win. I did. I mean, I was rooting for Kansas City, but if San Francisco won, I would have been like, all right, cool. C-Mac has a ring, like whatever. But instead, I just get to witness a dynasty, which is my real favorite thing, with a cast of guys that is honestly as likable as they come. And Taylor Swift won a Super Bowl. But now the NFL season is just done. It's like, oh, wow, it's just over. It's just over. That hasn't hit me yet, though, so I'm not worried about that. All right, let's move on. copinghoursubs@gmail.com is the email to the show. It will always be available in the description of wherever you listen to this podcast. This broadcast, I should say. It's not a podcast. Very famously not a broadcast. We had a guy the other day, just to derail myself, and he was in the comments. Must have been like the first time he ever listened to the show. And he was like, yeah, I just can't do this. He's like, this just isn't for me. This is just too much like radio. Like, you just sound like some shithead radio guy. Truly the most gassed I have ever felt in my entire life. That somebody finally got it. That somebody finally was like, is this guy trying to do radio? That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Even if the first guy to identify it and figure it out didn't like it, he was along for the ride, and he was like, I got to get off. He's waving the white flag. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm still thinking about the guy from last week who was like, hey, does anybody else in this show listen in Pakistan? This guy's just walking around like aimlessly, like, please, like, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Just some guy in Pakistan. Okay. All right. Let's read this email from Michael. Michael, welcome to the show. Subject line, does winning fix everything? Hello, I am a Hornets fan, and I was thinking about this morality in basketball when I saw a tweet about this article. Kobe Bryant statue ceremony, why these NBA players wear the iconic 8 and 24 on ESPN, and I got a flashback to some shit Miles Bridges said when he came back from his suspension, and it had me thinking about how well Kobe managed to fix his brand and become this deity figure even before he had passed. For me, one of the main reasons for that is how successful of a player he was. I know a lot of people feel some type of way. This is in a quote. I know a lot of people feel some type of way about me being back, and I understand that. It'll be a while before I gain their trust back, so I'm just going to go out there and play. If I get us some more wins, people's perspectives will change. That was a quote by Miles Bridges after he came back from his suspension after his disgusting actions, and it got me thinking about how common this is across different sports through people like Ray Lewis, Ronaldo, Mike Tyson, and way too many more. So I wanted your thoughts on how most sports fans put accolades over morals, and why does the common fan just accept that? Is it partly due to the fact that the players he plays with go against and don't care that it's an issue with the whole structure of sport? I'm really getting lost. This is a little bit of a run-on sentence. My apology for fucking it up. Basically, how do we get people to be like, fuck these guys? Like, why does this happen? Thank you for the email, dude. Yeah, a lot of this comes down to just how good and how successful you end up being. You know, because maybe there would be a team in 2024 that would be like, whoa, Kendrick Nunn on my basketball team. But even like 4 years ago when people are like, oh, like, we're going to trade for Kendrick Nunn, like, man, I don't know if I would want to do that because he did some not great stuff. He's one of those lower echelon guys, right? But if I can zag on my own argument here, and this is really the interesting case here, Deshaun Watson, we have collectively decided, fuck this guy, like we just have, and people found it really easy to root for the Browns as soon as R. Kelly wasn't their quarterback anymore. And it was like Joe Flacco, and people were like, oh my God, like that's cute. Like 39-year-old Joe Flacco. Like, wow, suddenly I kind of want to root for this Browns team when a fucking sex pest isn't their quarterback, making like $200 million. Like, wow, impressed. People have, on consensus, kind of punted on him, despite him, he can be good. He can be good. He has been in his career, and then he didn't play for like a year and a half, and then the Browns were like, go out there and do something, and then he just couldn't do anything. Even going into this season, I was like looking at the Browns, like, they might be all right. They might be okay with like Deshaun having an actual year under his belt of like getting back in the swing of things. And then like, thank God he got hurt. For being honest. Fuck that guy. Right? With Miles Bridges, you guys have sent a lot of emails in about Miles Bridges. Because most of you are Pistons fans. So we've gotten a lot of that. And also on the Pistons subreddit, there's been so much discourse over it because it does feel like the Pistons are positioning themselves to offer Miles Bridges a lucrative contract in the summer, that he's finally going to get that payday and that it'll come from his hometown team. People caution against this for a myriad of reasons, not even just the ones that are obvious that we're talking about here. I do think it's going to happen, and even when Derrick Rose, by the way, is another example of a guy who, like, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, I love him. Sorry. Like, I do. But I'm also able to acknowledge that trial was kind of a sham, though, no? Because if you're going to have, like, jurors taking pictures with you, woof. Someone lied. Someone lied in that screening process. Someone actually wanted jury duty. But what happened when he came to Detroit? Rather, what happened when he went to the Knicks? People loved him, and then until they didn't, right? What happened when he went to the Cavs? People didn't really love him. People didn't really love Derrick Rose in Cleveland. And then he went to the Timberwolves. He had 50. And what did we all do? We cried. Because we were like, Derrick Rose, back on the horse. Like, damn, that feels good. He was crying. The whole team was crying. He comes to Detroit. Detroit fans, oh my God, we got Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond. Like, what the fuck? It's going to be crazy. Nobody's talking about, like, hey, is this kind of weird? Culturally, are we sure about this? Derrick Rose didn't even, very famously, just hasn't won really that much. And that's not really, hey, it's not to shit on him, but it's true, right? So where does it come from with Derrick Rose? Well, I don't need to explain this as if we don't already know. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, yeah, it just depends on sort of who you are as a player. I don't know. Because, again, the Deshaun Watson thing really throws me off. That we are able to sort of look past the... Because it seems like what everybody always tries to do is you don't look at the person, you look at the player. It's like separating the art from the artist, right? Where people will be like, nah, I'll watch the Cosby Show still, even if I think Bill Cosby should be, like, dead and under the jail. The Cosby Show I'll still watch, right? What's that one special, that very, very famous special he has? I don't remember what it's called, but he's talking about, like, the dentist, and he's talking about his, like, kid and chocolate cake and something about farting and blaming it on imaginary animals. Like, that special. I'd still watch that. I'd still watch that and go, God damn, like, this is funny. Bill Cosby just in his bag. Like, funny. While at the same time being like, I would listen to the remix to Ignition being like, it's the remix to... Like, I would get down, but after it, I would be like, damn, R. Kelly. What the fuck? So is it kind of the same? Do we watch Miles Bridges go out and put up 30 and, like, windmill over dudes? And we just go, damn, like, I'd love some of that. And then as soon as he steps off the court, we're like, boo. Unless he's rapping, and then we're like, yeah. Or at least I am. I'll still give him that, right? I'll still give him that. Deshaun Watson steps on a football field, and we're like, fuck no. I reject this. Hell no. Get off the court. Boo. Tomato, tomato, tomato. And then he steps off the field. People are just like, gross. Like, Predator. Is that what it is? Are we separating the... I feel like I just kind of said stuff for 8 minutes and didn't really... All right. Did that answer your email? Let's move on. Got another YouTube advice one here that I kind of like. Kind of up my alley these days. From James. James, welcome to the show. Hey, Nick, if you choose to respond to this, I am responding to this in a video. 2 questions. Secondly, I plan to start recording some Let's Plays soon, and I have no clue how to edit because I'm terrible with computers. Does it make sense for a guy like me who's just starting out to immediately spend money on a high-quality editor like yourself or Rudy, as just an example? Or is it smarter to accept a friend's offer, which would almost certainly come at a lower price if she intends to charge me at all? It has not been discussed. But I know nothing of her capabilities, and I've seen and appreciate what the almost certainly more expensive options are capable of. Really concise email, James. Here's what I'd say. Can I do a little spiel on Rudy really quick? Here's my thing about Rudy is, can we even call him an editor anymore? And I don't say that because I took his job, but I say that because I feel like what he does on Jacob's main channel now is so much bigger and so much more involved and so much more important that I think Rudy has really upgraded from being an editor to being like a full-scale producer. And I say that as somebody who I have no idea what his workflow is like. I have no idea what the working relationship between him and Jacob is like. Don't they even like live together now? Like, I have no idea. There's another take. I have no idea what their living situation is. Do they live together? I've been too afraid to ask, but I know they both listen to the show, so they will let me know independently. What should you do here as somebody who's just starting out? Do you need to hire an editor? Do you need to go full? No, you really don't, dude. I would say the short version here, hire your friend. It's okay to do that. My actual advice, figure it out. Because it's going to feel so much more rewarding to you as an experience, at least I think, if you learn the back end to what you're trying to do here. If you can figure out, like, I would argue that YouTube editing and like Adobe YouTube, at least, is probably the most helpful out there. And I'm not saying you need to go out there. Like, if you're going to be spending money and you want to edit yourself, there are so many free tools that you could use. I would recommend DaVinci to you. If you do want to shell out a little bit of money, do like a month subscription of Premiere Pro, see how you like it. If you think if the juice is worth the squeeze, keep rolling it over. But it does get expensive after a while, right? At a certain point, you're like, should I just do the full year? Like, do I just save more money that way? In my brain, you don't actually save money that way because it's like, well, I have to spend all this money up front. It's like, well, yeah, but long term, you do end up saving more. Whatever. I never like doing that. I always prefer to do monthly. But there are so many tools at your disposal here. And again, I think it is going to be more fulfilling of an experience if you're able to figure out the ropes yourself. If that's something that you have no interest in doing, there's no shame in that, and that's okay. But I would say, assuming you go with the your friend route here, please pay them. Just for the sake of good relationship, good working relationship. It's like, hey, you want to spend 3 hours every other day editing one of my videos that you're not even in? You do want to do that? Wow, cool. Are you cool with not getting paid? Great, awesome, cool. You think that's how that's gonna? That's not how it's gonna go. Pay this person. You don't need to go. I don't even think you need an editor at this point. I'd argue a lot of people who have editors don't need editors, because when you should get one is when you are too busy to be doing it on your own and you're losing money because you could be spending that time editing on something else, on a different video idea. When that starts to be a reality, then you can look into like, fuck, I need somebody to edit these videos. If I really wanted to, I couldn't pay them. But if I really wanted to, I could send all of these raw files to some little crony in his basement, right, in like Montana, editing my videos. I could, but I really like it. And granted, the shit that I do, it's not a big lift at all. It's like drag it onto the timeline, and then you add a little sweeping transition sound effect. You do a little bit of color correction, but it's usually like bump the contrast and like bump the highlights and shit. It's nothing too crazy. I think it's very rewarding, but that's just me. Pay this woman or figure it out yourself. That's my advice. And let's move on. Hey, can we talk about something for real? I was about to read somebody's email, and then one specific way that they phrased something, it made me realize this is something that I've been meaning to bring up for like 2 episodes now, and it has only gotten worse over the last week. I'm being so serious right now. When you guys comment and email, there are a lot of you who are like, I'm drunk. And you're like, yeah, it's straight up. It's like 2 PM. I'm like just drinking, watching the show. I'm not upset with you. I'm not your fucking mom. But are you guys okay? Because seriously, the amount of you who will email into the show drunk, it's just a little like when you listen to the Coping Hour, are you like, okay, I need to get fucked up? Because if you're like smoking weed, listening to the show, I don't care about that. Like, great, cool. It's probably really funny. Honestly, I'm probably providing you with a really good experience. You're welcome for the service. But otherwise, like drinking, I'm serious. I hate to sound like a cop, but like, I just want to make sure that you guys are good. Especially this one kid that emailed in over the other dude. I almost made like a standalone video, and I didn't even email the kid back because it was just it's such a cry for help in a way that I'm like, dog, what you have going on first of all, you do not need validation from a guy on the internet. Second of all, what you have going on, we cannot fix in a tight 12 to 15. Like, I can't. And he's like, I'm just drinking and shit. And I'm like, okay. I can tell the email is slowly starting to devolve into like an emotional dumping grounds, which is fine. It's okay. Please, that's why it's there. Like, say whatever you need to say. And even if at the beginning you're like, please don't read this on the show. I just need to type all of this out. I will read it just so that you are being heard. But I would also at the same time maybe just check yourself a little bit with what some of you guys are sending in, because I can't I'm not actually a licensed fucking therapist. I don't know anything. I don't know if you guys have sort of started to get the footing of how this works. When I go into some of these emails, I very much have no idea what I'm going to say to you. I very much am just like trying to be a friend in the room. And you're like, I'm going to kill myself. I'm like, all right, okay. Not me too, Grandma. But like, I get it. Okay. But let's fucking, I don't know where this is going, but like, let's just take a deep breath, everybody. Let's stop drinking and emailing Nick. Hey, I guess you are what you attract. Am I a fucking alcoholic? I'm not, though. The same guy who's like, yeah, I had 8 beers during this. It was the Super Bowl. What, I can't have 8 beers during the Super Bowl? Get off my ass. But this is what it sounds like I'm doing to you guys. I'm serious. I just want to make sure you guys are good. That's all. If you keep drinking, keep day drinking, I don't care. But I just want to make sure it's in the name of, like, having fun and, like, fucking around because you're, like, 22 and you have nothing going on. If that's the reason, that's cool. But when you're like 17 years old and you're like, I'm drunk as fuck, straight up, like, that's not cool to me. It's not cool to me. I don't care if like, yeah, oh, Nick, you were never 17 and drunk. I wasn't emailing into a fucking internet show. Okay? Think to yourself, is this something that a guy on the internet, do I want that? Because that's the other thing, is some of the shit that you guys send in, I promise you do not want read on the show. Like, you don't. Even if it's anonymous, maybe you do. Hey, maybe you do. Maybe you want that shit out there in the void, and that way you'll just feel more heard. Maybe I don't need to tell you guys how to fucking write in emails. I literally just wanted to take a minute to make sure that you guys are okay. All right, let's move on. Great email here from Luke. Really captures the essence of the show in a way that we haven't seen in a while. Like, just a guy getting in his bag, being a quality hater. Luke, I say this with every fiber of authenticity in my heart. Welcome to the fucking show. Subject line, let people enjoy things. Hey, Nick, I don't know if this is a question or a rant yet, but I guess we'll find out as I write this. As a lover of art, specifically movies and TVs, I can find it hard to have a real, interesting, and passionate conversation with most people about the subject. For the record, I am on team let people enjoy things 100%. Even if what you like is not my vibe, if you love something, that's awesome. But it's also hella frustrating whenever I have something even mildly critical about whatever they're really into. Usually I'll avoid this, but sometimes people will back me into a corner to give my honest opinion, and I honestly don't. When they don't actually want to hear that shit, but sometimes I have no choice. Can we please let people not enjoy things? Do we need to be fucking head over heels about everything? It is so much to ask of people to not perceive you as the biggest asshole in the world if you don't love Interstellar, a movie that I really like, by the way. I remember telling my high school friends when it came out that it wasn't like a fucking masterpiece to me, and nearly a decade later, they still hold that grudge against me. People get very, very weird and defensive about that movie in particular, but there are plenty of other examples. Anyways, didn't know if you could relate. Love the pod. Luke, I love this fucking email. Dude, is what I love, because you're exactly right. I think there needs to be, and it's part of a way bigger conversation, but if, just for the sake of making it about sports, because that's probably going to be the easiest way to do it here. It's like this age of, as if it's unique to 2024, but I think social media does perpetuate this a little bit. You have to be so far on either side of either this guy is the great, like if we're using Patrick Mahomes as an example, is he the greatest quarterback of all time or the most overrated quarterback of all time? Is like, we have to frame it in that way. It has to be either the greatest thing or the most like meh thing, because that's the topic of conversation of the day. When we talk about guys in the NFL draft, I'm talking about, I see a graphic the other day. I even took a screenshot of it because I was going to bring it up in the show and then I never did. This was like 2 episodes ago. It was a screenshot from like an ESPN draft like analysis thing. And it was like Drake May. I'm getting shades of Joe Flacco, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, and Aaron Rodgers. Let's throw more fucking names in there. Like, it has to be a melting pot of all of these names that you've heard of, and like this culmination of this years of hard work, and he's getting to this moment where if there was a motherfucker who walked into the NFL and he was the combination of Joe Flacco, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud, and like fucking Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, huh? That guy, we would be not talking about him as like, maybe he's going to go first overall. That guy would go first overall in every single draft. So the fact that we have to make it like this ultimate thing, I'm blanking on what word I want to use, is annoying. If I had to talk about it in like a movie sense or like a, just a media depiction, A24 fans are this way. And it's annoying to me whenever I have to be like, yes, I stan a production company. I would fall on a grenade for A24. Even though, like, over half of the movies that we are like, that's an A24 movie, like, isn't really an A24 movie. They don't produce that many. Like, when you really look at it, they don't. They distribute a lot. They don't produce that many, though. So even the movies that we're like, oh, my God, that's such an A24 movie, a lot of the times it's actually not really, though. But it is under the umbrella, and it does have the A24 stamp on it because they distributed the movie. And they're just very selective and very particular about that. But what comes with the territory are the most, like, jaded and just fucking worst types of people that you can imagine, because they know everything about everything. They know everything about every frame that has ever been in an A24 movie. Like, the shit that's going on, and this is where I'm going to start to alienate it. It's going to be really niche. There was 2 movies that came out like 2 years ago. In January, there was a movie directed by Ty West called X. Had Jenny Ortega, had Kid Cudi, had Mia Goth. It was great. Just a little slasher, nothing crazy. Like, it was a fun little slasher. That's it. What's the ceiling on one of those kinds of movies? You know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. You got out of it what you thought you were going to get out of it. And then a couple months go by, and we find out we're getting a movie called Pearl, which is actually a prequel to X. It's starring Mia Goth. You're like, whoa, okay, cool. People leave that movie, and they're like, wait, holy shit, this movie actually, like, legit ruled as a horror movie. This movie just objectively ruled. And then you go back and watch X, and it gives you this greater appreciation. Where I'm going with this is now we know, and we've known this since Pearl came out, that Maxine will be the 3rd and final installment in this trilogy. And it will chronicle what Mia Goth's got. Well, no spoilers, but Mia Goth is in Los Angeles fucking around in the 80s, and she's probably going to kill a bunch of people. Okay? The cultural obsession that has blossomed over this movie, people assuming that it was going to be announced at the fucking Super Bowl, like the budget of the first movie didn't, like the cost of 30 seconds during the Super Bowl exceeded the budget of the first fucking movie. You think all of a sudden that I know A24 is kind of a cash cow. This is such a long-winded way of like barely even talking about the same thing that you're talking about, even though I completely understand what you're saying. I'm saying all of this literally just to get to the part where I'm like, the way people are treating this fucking movie when it comes out, like we're not all going to see it and go like, yeah, that was just a really fun movie. And not like it's going to be a fucking cultural event. Like, it's just not, okay? It's going to be a movie that we all go to, we sit there for 2 hours, and then we leave, and we go, that was a really fun way to spend 2 hours. End of story. That's fucking it. We're not going to leave that movie having a fucking cathartic experience like you maybe would have with Interstellar, which, by the way, was a fucking awesome movie. Like a cinematic achievement. You know what my take is on Christopher Nolan? It's Tenet. It's Tenet. Well, okay, it's Oppenheimer. Is his movie. It's Oppenheimer. Tenet is one of, if not, honestly, maybe even over Oppenheimer, my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. I've seen it like literally 10 times, minimum. And there are some parts that I'm still like, what? Still like, what? People are like, I can't even hear what's going on. I can't understand it. Christopher Nolan just said this himself. It's not always about understanding his movies. It's about experiencing them. It's about experiencing what you feel when you're along for the ride. And that is what I always appreciate about his. Did we find some common ground here, Luke? Did you at least see that I was trying to talk about the same thing you were talking about? I completely agree with you. That some people shouldn't get to enjoy things. And not in the name of hating necessarily, but even in the name of being indifferent. Even in the name of being lukewarm. I'll have a crumb of that. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's move on. The other day, on Friday's episode, we read an email from a guy who was like, hey, I got a group of friends, and they're shitheads. They're not very nice people. They're not very accepting people. And I want to come out to them as bisexual and let them know that I'm in a relationship with a trans woman. And I read the email, and I tried to make it as clear as I could that while I may not be the most well-equipped to deal with this email, I felt it was important because I know my demographic very well. And I assumed that there would at least be somebody out there who could provide the words that I could not. Hell, maybe even some resources. I thought about forwarding some of these emails to Finn, but it required too much coordination on my end where I would have had to have consented, been like, hey, is it okay if I forward this email to the person and get the okay back from them? But yeah, that's okay. You can do that. And then I just didn't want to do it. I just had too much shit going on this week. That's it. I just didn't want to do it. So instead, I'm going to stage the email once again and read some of the, honestly, informative and educational emails that you guys sent in on this subject because I think, this doesn't hurt anybody. I think it's just good to put some of these words out there. So this first one is from Josie, subject line, a trans voice on Finn's email. Hey, Nick, Josie here. I wanted to respond to the segment about Finn's email from Friday's episode. To provide my credentials, I'm a multi-hyphenate when it comes to queerness. I'm a trans, feminine, non-binary lesbian. I was assigned male at birth, but have a different relationship with femininity than someone of my assigned gender. I also identify as non-binary, which is trans in the first place, in my opinion, and am only interested in other non-male people, hence my lesbianness. Please note that I am only one voice from the queer community at large, and I do not represent anything. All right, you don't need the fucking legal bullshit here, Josie. Come on. First, concerning your question about the potential straightness of a man and a trans woman being together, the above point of only representing my own perspectives is exactly what matters concerning the designation of that sort of relationship. Queer people are pedantic, and there is nothing wrong with that. And queer people are pedantic because each person's inner workings and feelings are deeply personal to each person's identity. Can a trans woman and a man be in a straight relationship? Sure. If they don't choose to distinguish anything, more power to them. According to the logic that society has set up, a relationship between a man and a woman is perceived as straight. However, if those people choose to identify in it any other way, they have every right to, because queer, trans, and non-gender conforming people have been othered by our current society. I believe there is truth to distinguishing it as separate from a straight relationship because the ingredients that go into making it that go into making this supposed straight relationship are not the approved ingredients in the eyes of society. To expand further, I am of the opinion that any relationship where one or more people are queer is a queer relationship. I definitely agree with that last point. Can I ask you something? I'm confused about one thing. So, scrolling back up to the top here, but have a different relationship with femininity than someone who's... I also identify as non-binary, which is trans in the first place, in my opinion. Okay. If you identify as non-binary, then you could also identify yourself as trans. And the reason that that's confusing to me is I'm conflating being trans with just swapping teams. Because what that would insinuate, if I think of it that way, is that I believe that there are only two genders and that if you... That's what that means, right? I get what you're saying. I'm just making sure that I understand why what I'm thinking is wrong. Right? Okay, I think I get what the problem is. Let's just get back to the email because there was something else that I wanted to mention here. There are two things here. It's a long email, so I just don't want to. We'll do this. Last thing I'll say, considering your questions, is that to not outwardly identify or at least communicate that one is trans can be very dangerous for trans people. There are plenty of tragic stories of trans women not telling potential partners that they're trans and literally being murdered for it. That comes down to, in my opinion, violent, unchecked, encouraged misogyny and the concept of ownership that men feel over women who they view as property, whether consciously or unconsciously. So to outwardly identify and communicate that one is trans. Dude, I don't know why I can't fucking read today. So to outwardly identify and communicate that one is trans can also be a defense mechanism which will keep those people away. Sure. The tragic example of murders like that is fully representative to me that the issue is not with the word, but with the existence. If this somehow does end up getting read on the show, Finn, sorry, it scrolled all the way back up to the top. I don't think that you should be friends with those people. I don't think there can be any reconciliation no matter how good of people you think they may be. With people who outwardly express a level of hate for the identity of your partner, and I'm confident they do the same for your bisexuality as well, you should never feel nervous about introducing a partner or revealing an aspect of your identity to friends. Friendships shouldn't come with the type of anxiety and fear that you're feeling. It won't be easy to separate yourself from them considering your history, but it will be worth it when you look back and realize how that experience changed your standards of what friends should be and the newfound quality of friends that you make moving forward. To the Queer Coping Hour listeners, I love you. You're all right too, Nick. Best, Josie. Here's my thing. I can already tell. To the queer people, I love you. Nick, you're all right too. I can already tell Josie watches this show. And if it's an hour-long show, for 45 minutes, it's like walking on eggshells. Like, I don't think this person likes me very much. But for like 15 minutes every show, they're like, yeah, okay, this is a good show. And then for 45 minutes, I'll just say one thing and it will like completely ruin the show for them. I thought that was very constructive. There was actually one more that I kind of want to read too. And I apologize because I think me just fucking up my being able to read, which I can read, by the way, is kind of messing this up. So we have another one from Eleanor. Follow up for Finn from Resident Transgender Coping Hour email is the subject line. Eleanor, welcome to the show. Josie, I don't think I welcomed you to the show, but also welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. Hey, Nick, I think you did a better job with Finn's question than you were probably expecting. Nonetheless, here's some of my thoughts. If you can forward this to Finn or something, that would be sick because it's directed towards him. Oh, should I not read this on the show? I forgot. I didn't read that part. I don't want to read this then if it's more specifically for them. All right. Well, I feel like I just kind of killed this. Look, man, I was very appreciative of you guys coming out of the woodwork and trying to help this kid. Maybe I will email that to Finn since you gave me the green light. Maybe I'll do that when the show is done. All right. Let's move on. All right, wrapping up today's show. Can I tell you something I forgot to mention on Friday that I was really upset about? I wanted to do like an NFL honors thing, and I really only had one. Like I got nothing. Lamar winning MVP, probably should have. Offensive Rookie of the Year, C.J. Stroud, yeah, probably. But like it does feel bad that Puka just didn't get anything at all. Like that feels kind of bad. But also, what were you gonna do? Not give it to C.J. Stroud? I'm not mad about it. Whatever. Can we talk about comeback player of the year for a second? What the hell? Look, I was just as excited. We've talked about it in this episode. I was as excited as anybody was when Joe Flacco got a call to get off the couch and come quarterback for the Browns. I loved even more when he took him to the playoffs. I didn't love how he went out in the playoffs. That sucked. Was it 3 interceptions? It sucked. Joe Flacco going out sad. Was not a fan of it. Are we sure, though, about comeback player? Are we sure? I probably would have voted him, too. But how quickly we forget. No? How quickly we forget. It is legitimately a miracle that Damar Hamlin is not only alive, but playing football again already. By the way, he was pretty early on. He didn't miss that much time. In the grand scheme of things, for a guy who was medically fucking dead, by the way. It feels a little weird to not, and I get it. You don't just want to give it to him. I get it. Hey, maybe if he had gotten if he had gotten that fake punt against the Chiefs, the votes were already in. They had already finished voting on it, so it wouldn't have mattered. the best take I saw on this, I think it was from Rich Eisen. He was like, can we just like at least name the award after him? I like that. That feels good. But to not give this guy anything at all feels a little weird. And like kind of like, dog, like his number was plastered everywhere. Like the NFL was like, look at how much of a fucking miracle it is. They wheeled that dude around. Not wheeled, phrasing. But they paraded that dude around like he actually did die. And he didn't. And then it stopped being like lucrative or like interesting to people because we just kind of moved on to the next thing. He was dead on the field. He was not alive anymore. His brain stopped working. His heart's like he was dead. And he comes back, and then we're just like, no, Joe Flacco. Like, it's weird. It's weird. Because, again, I probably would have voted for Joe Flacco. But culturally, I think it's insane that we are able to just kind of move the fuck on from that? Huh? All right. I guess. What else did we see from the Super Bowl? I was bummed that I didn't really watch the SpongeBob Nickelodeon cast. How about, was it Ian Eagle and Nate Burleson? Is that who I saw was in the booth? Those kiddos, man. They got a nice little booth up there. Nate Burleson has carved out such a weird career in the media, like really taking the Michael Strahan route. But I just didn't expect it from Nate Burleson, I guess. But I like it. Hey, Detroit Lions legend. Baseball's coming. I'm probably going to have to start doing like, what am I going to do? Like a Detroit Tigers season preview? Like probably not. Probably not going to do that. Kershaw locked back in with it. I'm like literally looking around right now being like, what is there that I can mention? Like what's going on? What's going on in my land that I've been playing so much Starfield lately. I'm back in Starfield. And I'm so happy about it because it's truly the one game in my entire life that I read everything that people say about it and how much they hate it. And I agree with most of it, but I love the game. I love it. I've dumped at this point easily like 150 hours into it. I hammered it for 2 months. I put it down in December. And then just a couple days ago, I was like, I just need something to play. Re-downloaded all 142 gigs of fucking Starfield. And it's just a good time. It's just a good time. I love building spaceships. Like I've wanted a video game my entire life that had a ship builder as intuitive as the one in Starfield is. Yeah, eventually you're kind of like, oh, can I get some new parts? Like, these kind of are stale. Like, I've been using the same shit. Like, when you really start to spend time in there, you realize, like, how little it feels like there actually is in the game. And that is honestly kind of the bigger sentiment of the game, too. It's not even just the shipbuilder. Is that the entire game is a mile wide and an inch deep. You know? There's a lot of places you can go, but it doesn't always feel like there's that much to do. And Bethesda's response to that is, yeah, space exploration is probably pretty lonely and mostly pretty boring. So it's more of like a simulation of like the human condition, which is interesting to me and part of the reason why I like it, because I don't think that's the worst logic in the world. People would argue that that's just lazy and you're just using that so that you didn't have to create like a bunch of assets and I don't know, you cut corners a little bit. Sure, maybe. But the game is huge, though. The game is huge. Dog, like, I just land on a planet and I just start colonizing. I just start blasting immediately. Where are the aliens? They're all dead. All of them. That's like, I will spend 2 hours doing that. My girlfriend will be like, are you coming to bed soon? I'm like, yes. She's like, what are you doing? I'm just like, she'll walk over. I'm just killing aliens. I'm like killing dinosaurs on faraway planets. I'm like, I love it. I can't get enough of it. Can I give you guys, I haven't spoken to the fellas of the Coping Hour in what feels like a long time. We've been speaking to the women and the non-binary, the non-gender conforming, the gender fluid listeners of the Coping Hour. Can I talk to the fellas for a second? Hey fellas, how you doing, boys? You guys crush any beers yesterday? No, can I ask you guys something? You know what to me is the ultimate form of respect when it comes to like relationships, men and women? If me as a man, if I'm showing you a YouTube video, any YouTube video, if I go out of my way to be like, will you watch this YouTube video with me? or if I include you on the lore in my head of the video game that I'm playing, like if when I'm playing Starfield, like, yes, there's actual lore in the game, but, you know, you create it for your own character. If I start to give you that and the backstory to my career guy in like 2K or Madden, if I'm giving you that, you're in. You know what I mean? Truly, like, the ultimate sign of respect. And as a woman, if you have a man trying to show you YouTube videos, or he's like, no, I'm like playing this game and like my character, like, he's so cool, and like like he likes you. Okay, that is like you've been chosen. He wants to include you in shit that he cares about. Okay, so as boring as the YouTube video might be, as much as you don't want to watch that World War II documentary, ladies, just sit there and watch it with him, because that means a lot to him. It means a lot to him. I don't know. If he's like me, he's going to be making sure that you're paying attention to it the entire time. God forbid you take your phone. Why are you on your phone? Put your goddamn phone away is what I'll say. Why are you on your phone? Why do you need that? It's still on. We still have 45 minutes. What's on your phone that's not on the TV right now is what I would say. I'm trying to... I think I had I feel like I yelled at somebody the other day that I wanted to bring up on the show. I can't. It escapes me at this moment. No, it wasn't that I yelled at somebody. I was just in the grocery store and I was getting really mad and I almost yelled at somebody. I show more apprehension yelling at women in public. Like, if you're standing in the middle of the aisle or on the middle of the sidewalk, you know, in the street, I don't care who you are. I will fucking say something to you. But there is a little bit more apprehension because I don't want to startle. I don't want to be the guy on a sidewalk. I am the king of just happening to like be walking behind a woman for like 2 blocks, and then I like that feeling of like I have to cross the street. Like, I don't want this woman, or like you slow down at a certain pace, like they're walking too slow and like you're walking and you just are in this uncomfortable fucking situation where you're like kind of tailing them and you just happen to be going down the same sidewalks. You're like, fuck, dude, I look insane right now. And this is just the way that we're conditioned to think, because you don't want them to think that you're fucking gonna attack them. Cross the street. Across the street every single time. God forbid it's late at night and we're like about to cross paths. Dude, I will get on the opposite. I'm like, please, I'm not going to like, and this is just me being paranoid. I don't know. I don't even know why I even just went on that rant. The fuck. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to leave 5 stars. If you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a nice little comment, leave a like, subscribe. I will catch you guys in the next one.
Trust them ship in the builder plans.